In this video, we're going to show you to install the ABS speed sensor on your Nissan Frontier, located behind your front wheels. Using a 21mm socket, go ahead, loosen and remove your lug nuts. Get to remove the wheel and set it aside. I want to go ahead and remove our brake caliper. We have two 14mm bolts here. We want to go ahead and loosen and remove these. I'm going to start with the bottom one. Go ahead and get that top one. Now I want to go ahead and separate the brake caliper from the caliper bracket itself. So I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver, go between the caliper bracket and the caliper, and just try and move this out. Just gently work this back and forth between the brake rotor and the caliper bracket. Now we have a caliper hanging tool here. You want to make sure when you remove this here, you can hang this caliper. You don't want the caliper to drop on this flex hose here. You can damage that. So go ahead and use the hanging tool, and then you can hook it up on the upper control arm or up on the frame somewhere to support this up and out of the way. Remove your brake caliper bracket by loosening the two 19mm bolts here. You can use an impact gun, or you can use your ratchet and socket. Now we got our lower bolt out with our impact gun, but for some reason the upper one was a little bit tighter, so we're going to switch over to our breaker bar here. Needs a little more leverage. Now with that loose, we're going to switch back to our impact gun and zip that off. Be sure to hold the caliper bracket when you remove this bolt, otherwise this is going to drop and it could hit you in the foot. Slide this off. Probably going to come off with your brake pads. Simply slide the pads out of the shims. Set those aside for now. Grab that brake rotor, slide that off and set that aside. So we have our ABS wire coming down to the side of our wheel hub right here. Now this is going to use a 5mm Allen key. You want to go ahead and make sure that that is cleaned out. I'm going to go ahead and just tap that in, make sure it's fully seated. And we'll go ahead and gently try and loosen this and remove that screw. So now we want to go ahead and work this out of the knuckle itself. And I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver and just gently tap around this here. Go ahead and spray that down with some more rust penetrant. And we're going to let that sit for a little bit longer, let that soak in. Now our sensor is rusted into our wheel hub itself, so chances are this is going to end up breaking. You're going to follow this wire harness around the back, and there's just a couple retainers that we need to pop this out of, and then feed this up. I'm going to follow this up and remove it from the other metal clips here. Just continue this process all the way up to the connector up at the top here. Then come on over to our connector here. I'm going to press in on this little tab, pull the wire harness up and out. It's going to make it a little bit easier to go ahead and work on this here. I'm just using a little pocket screwdriver, pressing down on this tab, and just gently try and separate the connector here. Here we go. Now at this point, we need to drill this out. Want to be careful as you drill this out. You don't want to go too far and cause any damage on the back side. So we're going to start by doing a little pilot hole here through the middle of the sensor. Now what I'll normally do is get a drill bit that's a little bit smaller than the sensor itself. I'll drill out the core and then I'll clean up around the edges, maybe chase it with a little bit larger of a bit, but you want to be careful not to drill out the wheel hub itself as well. Now we drilled it out, we were able to pull out the rest of our sensor. Take your new sensor, feed that through the back side. Go ahead and put that into place. Go ahead and install the bolt for this. Make sure that that sensor is seated all the way around. And just go ahead and snug that down. Doesn't have to be super tight. It does have a brass sleeve, so you want to make sure that it's snug. Now we're going to go ahead and start routing our wire up and into position. Now we have our rubber grommets. We're just going to go ahead and start to install these here into place. Push those in. Try not to twist the wire when doing this. Install the bottom one. We did run our wire underneath the bracket. Install that grommet. Feed this up above the control arm. Line up our connector, push that on. We're going to feed this down where the factory holes were right here. Go ahead and install this here. Go ahead, press that into place. Install that lower tab right here. Good, take your wheel, line it up. Now if you have these center caps like this here, I want to go ahead and line this up. Ideally, you want to go ahead and get all of the lug nuts started by hand. And then once you have them all started, we'll go ahead and snug them down. Good, and torque down your lug nuts to 98 foot-pounds. You want to try and do this in a crisscross pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.